2 weeks ago, I was asked by Auditor Bailey if I would come down and speak about why do I love First Congregational Church? What does it mean to me? How do I love thee? Let me count thy ways. I'll start out with a personal little history. Right here, I was baptized. In 3rd grade, I received my first Bible, personalized Bradley, because my mom had to have Bradley, not Brad. Then I made it to 6th grade and 7th grade, and I became an acolyte. Acolytes at that time were chosen. It was an honor to be chosen to be an acolyte. There were about 3 or 4 of us that would rotate, and we had a chance to turn on the candles, light them, extinguish them at the end of the service, help with the offering plates, and even help with communion. And that was always a good experience for me because I learned responsibility. I learned there is a routine, and there's things that are needed to be done every Sunday at church. Now, a sidebar to that, or a sidelight, is the fact that I remember very distinctly there was a duet that sang every Sunday that I happened to be aboard. There were 2 of them. One's name was Mary Glockoff. The other's was Ralph DeRue. How does that tie into with me in the church? Well, who would have told me 15 years later that I would marry Mary's youngest daughter, Joanna, who happens to have attained her talent for singing. I remember just thinking that was, and not knowing who she was. She went to a different school, everything else. Ralph DeRue at this church sang, he was a soloist for my mom and dad's wedding. So I'm going to continue on with this so you understand what this means to me, because I got to think about it and it got me going on a very emotional trail. After that, I was confirmed in this church, and we had many, many confirmants. I would say probably 15 to 20. Hope we can get to those numbers again someday. We would meet on Sunday nights up in the confirmand room, this teaching room, the fun room, the lounge, whatever you want to call it. And we would have a parent come every week, and the parent would fix a meal, as good as Wes. Would fix a meal. And then we would talk with the parents. They were involved. We would talk with a guest speaker. We would do a project. And we worked hard to be confirmands. And I remember that like it was yesterday, being in that room. Well, when I was offered a chance to teach Sunday school 6 years ago now, I, of course, jumped at the chance. I had to start at the beginning, though. I had K through 2. That was quite a wake-up call for me. But what I got to believe is that now those kids are growing up. Some of them are in middle school. And I can't say, but when I see each one of them, they feel like my kids. So I really feel good about that and where that was going. But then when the opportunity came to teach the post-confirmation class, I jumped at that. The reason I feel that's important at this church is because sometimes we lose those people for a while. They're not sure where their role is at the church. We have a youth choir, we have a few projects here and there, a field trip, but I think we're the ones we need to invest in heavily. And I thought this is my chance with Christine Nelson to teach these kids every Sunday. That's what we did, and we would hopefully continue to do in the future. It's been rewarding for me, and I think that that's something we should really pay attention to at this church. We don't want to lose those people before they go on in their lives. All right, after confirmation, there was a wedding here. Joanna and I were married right here. And I'm kind of thrilled to say that after that, and that's been 37 years, we had another wedding the week after. Now, some of you that are around this church long enough will remember Reverend Nye. Reverend Nye married us, and it was just a great man, still a great man. We see him once in a while at the YMCA. The problem was his son, ready for this? Brad Nye, not to be confused with Dye, was married the week after. I can't tell you the number of gifts that went to the wrong place on both ends. And we still laugh about it. We still laugh about it 30-some years later. So that's what my ties in with that. I also am thrilled, and my wife is also thrilled, Joanna, that our son Derek, even though he lives in Chicago, has chosen to be married here next November, a year from now. We're hoping everything is okay at that point. His fiancée, Sarah, they didn't have to think too long. They love the church, so they said, we want to be married here. So as you can see, the circle continues to circle. Now I want to get into a couple other things, but I want you to know my background. Oh, one more thing. I still found my first Congo, because we couldn't say congregational on our shirt, it was too long. So I played for the fast pitch softball team at First Congo. We were really good. Our arch rival was across the street, Gospel Temple, for those of you who remember that. And it was a joy. I was in high school and college during those times to play with the older people. Jim Moorhusen, are you listening? He was a member. And then we also went and played basketball too. And we had fellowship. It was just a great thing. So one of those days, maybe I'll be the one to start that again if we can do that. I would love to do that. But it was a good thing. Didn't take ourselves too seriously, but enjoyed it. All right, at that point now we go into what I like about this church, the structure. And any of us can admit that we don't miss this. About every other week we talk about that. What do you miss? What do you miss? Audrey hit it on the nail with one of the things, I'm going to say, the stained glass windows. Now the refurbished stained glass windows. You walk in, it takes your eyes, sometimes it takes your heart. I miss the message every week. We used to call it sermons. I like message. I miss the talented music we get from piano, from organ, from vocals, from everything, and guest musicians. I really miss that part. And then I also miss something small here. We just would have passed the time, the peace. To me, passing the peace of this church is a long tradition, and I get a chance just for a second, to talk to a couple people. First guy I seek out is usually Bob Miller, right in the corner. And of course, we have to pass the peace and then want to know how the Packers are doing. Then I'll go across to Kermit Wells, and he'll tell me, do I know what the music is? I guess I have an inside track because of Joanna. I don't understand music like I should, but I love it. I do know that. So I miss turning to behind me in the pews and seeing the Nelson family, looking ahead and seeing the Wandry family. That I miss every week. And then finally, Audra also mentioned smelling bacon. I miss going down there because that's another chance for, you guessed it, fellowship at this church. The food is great. That's just an extra addendum. That's great. But to be able to sit and talk, see Wes with his apron on, and maybe we'll go corn dogs, maybe we'll go casserole, maybe we'll go apple strudel. It doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all good. And it's a chance to, again, have 30, 45 minutes of extra fellowship. If anybody doesn't miss that, okay, but I sure do. I miss all those parts. They just come back and hit me again and again. What do I miss about this church? What I've learned in my church journey is this. Michael mentioned the door. There she is. Maureen mentioned the house and the mansion. You have to build a foundation. You have to build a foundation first. I hope I build my foundation as I attuned to it earlier with my steps up. And once you build that foundation, there are no limits to how high you can go, how high spiritually you can go, how high you are committed to this church. But you need to have that foundation. Now, the foundation has been shaking a little bit maybe, or it's been, I don't want to say lost. It isn't lost. This church is here. It always will be here. I am absolutely struck by the fact that wherever I go in Illinois, which hasn't been too many places this summer, but for a couple of my duties I do with the Department of Ag, I would go by churches, and the sign would be simple. And if I saw this sign once, I saw it 10 times. We are still here. We are still here. And I mean physically the structure, and then in the heart, they are still here. Your faith never leaves. Now, do we need to be good at it because our models are altered? Are we varied in how we worship, how we go about this? But you have to know that fact that we are here, and we're always going to be here. And you can close your eyes or you can feel bad, but it's here. Even if we can't get here every Sunday, it's here. Don't ever, ever forget that. Thank you.